Find out who your friends are.
Working. I can't make any promises, but.
Seems like it's working.
What's my good side? Okay, say it.
Yeah, we're recording. I'm not gonna beat you.
I've got enough agendas here.
Yeah,
You have one?
I have one for February and one for March 5th.
I have three
That should-
for March 5th.
Oh, well, no, I'm fine, thank you, unless yours look better than mine.
You've got one? I'll put the extra ones here.
Oh, I can get on Facebook.
Kind of full agenda tonight.
Oh, marina looks nice. Is that what it looks like now? It's all brick down there now?
What?
The marina. Flash the picture up there. It's really good.
All right, we ready? Okay, we're going to call the Utilities Commission meeting to order this evening. It's 7:30 p.m. The first order of business for the Utilities Commission is to approve the minutes of the Utilities Commission meeting of February 5th, 2018.
I'll move to approve the Utilities Commission meeting as submitted, dated February the 5th,
And I'll second that.
2018.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Let the record show we unanimously approve the minutes. Item number 2 is total operating funds on hand for the Utilities Commission. So our previous total cash on hand balance on February 5th, 2018 was $1,764,824.47. The total cash on hand balance tonight, March 5th, 2018, is $1,703,922.16. The third item on the Utilities Commission meeting agenda is the payment of the bills. Would anyone like to make a motion to pay
I'll
the
move
bills?
to pay the bills as submitted.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Let the record show we unanimously agreed to pay the bills for the Utilities Commission this evening. And that brings us to the always dynamic report by Mr. Bob Sipes.
Hey. Evening, Mayor and Council. I'll keep it short. We're in the process of doing the biomonitoring toxicity testing on the effluent from the wastewater plant. That test is to determine whether or not what we're putting into the river is toxic to the aquatic life that lives there. And I will let you know what those results are.
Bob, how often is that tested? Just
We're doing twice a year right now. It used to be you did it once during a permit period, which is about every 5 years. They're accelerating that to try to identify if wastewater plants are causing turmoil in the waterways. And with the frequency of the testing now, it shouldn't be long before they get a good grip
okay.
on what's causing problems and what isn't. A big bill that you're going to see in here as you go through it is some $7,000. Haywood Engineering. Those are hydraulic cylinders for the UV unit over at the wastewater plant. They're pretty expensive. They go about $2,000 each, a little more, and we had 3 of them that were out, so we got those. The winds that we had on Friday played havoc. The electric at the water plant would flicker about every 15 minutes, so I stayed there and monitored it. We also had problems at Radcliffe. A tree went down somewhere out Quaker Neck, and the generator came on and ran, but when it transfers back, sometimes the pumps don't do what they're supposed to. So we monitored everything that was going on that night. And I assume everybody got an update on what was wrong, what we were looking at the last meeting, what was wrong. And it was just a matter of what we were looking at didn't really reflect the bills that were all due. A lot of that was already paid. That's all I have.
I have a question for you.
27.
27. So, and this may be new to the newer members of the councils. Last year, we had preliminary discussions about a project that you actually suggested we undertake, which was to map where all of our water lines are, basically. Is that?
I still have that. I'm trying to find a better way to do it. What we did is we put out for bid, someone to write the RFP to make sure we were getting everything that we were getting. And reading that RFP, I wasn't satisfied we were going to get everything that we want to get.
So we just bid out, we were putting out a bid for someone to write the request for proposal.
Yes.
So it wasn't
Yes.
even a bid to
Right.
do the work.
Right.
So how much was that gonna be, just to write the,
I think it was $2,000.
okay,
And what we got back was something very generic. It didn't go into to any kind of detail on what we should have as a finished product. I spent some time on it last year, and then with other projects that came up, I kind of set it on the side to revisit, but I'll get back on it.
yeah,
Is
'cause
this, excuse me, is it just water supply, or is it water supply and wastewater?
Wastewater's already done.
Okay.
Wastewater is already GIS, referenced, including information on the manholes. So that's done. What we're looking for is the water layer, and we had started it before. At one time, the college was going to come in and have a student do a part of it, and what he did was couldn't be used at all. It showed water lines running through the middle of people's houses and some other stuff. They may be capable of doing it, but that's not what they demonstrated. Then I looked at doing it myself. I actually bought a little GPS kit made by Delorme, and it wasn't accurate enough. So what we're looking to do now is we can get it referenced off of the sewer system, but by the time I retire, what I want to have is a complete set of paper prints sitting over one set here, a set at the water plant, a set at the wastewater plant, so that people know where things are at.
could that study also give us an indication of the quality of the lines? Because I know that we're an old town and we have a lot of older lines that maybe aren't made of the materials that you would use if we were putting in a new line.
We would be guessing. For instance, we know that on 213, from the bridge up to Bennett's is rolled steel. And then from Bennett's going up 213 is old ball and socket pipe. And there are different types of pipe all over town, but even in the plans that we have, they don't identify the pipe type.
What type is that?
So to get a material and age or a classification on the quality, we would actually have to
Dig
excavate
holes,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, and that gets expensive really quick.
Yeah. Well, that is something that does interest me because I totally agree with you. I hope you continue working with us for the next 25 years, but let's say you retired next year. That next person, I know, but whoever that next person is, it would be nice if you could just hand off
Yes.
real data.
And that's the plan.
Yeah, right.
To have it done by then. So, it's not gone, it's just, it needs more detail to it to make sure we're going to get the finished product that we need to get.
And then, do you have any ballpark idea of how much a study like that might cost? Like 50 grand,
And that's part
5
of the
grand?
problem, because it depends on what we put in it. You can have a company come in and go out and put the valve locations down, and then suppose the water lines all connect from that point. That would be the cheapest way to do it. but it's also going to be the most inaccurate way to do it. So what we need to do is we need a GIS and do some identification to verify where all of that's at. So I'm guessing ballparking it anywhere from 50 to 120,000. It all depends how, and
with that-
there are some people looking for grants for us. Maryland Environmental Service is trying to find some grant money that would cover the entire cost of the project.
That would be awesome. If there was no grant money available, would that come out of the capital
I hope
portion
so.
of the Utilities Commission?
I hope
Assuming,
so.
let's just, in the worst case scenario, we're paying 100% of it.
But one of the options was to do it in steps over a period of 2 or 3 years and pay for it that way out of the regular budget. Now, if what we're talking about is 50,000, we might be able to do that. If what we're talking about is 100,000, that's going to be a whole lot harder.
So let's pretend that I had a pretty important person in town say, Chris, you need to do this study and you need to replace all the old water lines in town. Is that even a realistic idea?
Well, all the water lines in town wouldn't need to be replaced. The areas that we would be looking at as a priority would be the historic district, especially those lines that were hand dug in back in
The day.
1890, 1900. So you're talking about 213, talking about High Street and Calvert Street, the run down to Vita Foods. Some of those lines are really old.
Do we have any estimate as to what our leakage rates are, particularly on these old lines?
All we know is the difference from the water that we produce and the wastewater flow that comes into the plant. But that's not very indicative, because when we have a rain event, we get high I&I from people tying their sump pumps into the sewer system.
Right.
So we'll actually have more water come into the wastewater plant, sometimes 3 times as much than what we produce at the water plant. And by the same token...
And we're having to treat that water to the same level that we would raw
Yes.
sewage.
Yes. And then on the other side of it, in August, we're going to produce more water than comes into the wastewater plant, because a lot of it is outside use. So to answer your question, we don't know. We know what we produce. We know what the average should be per capita for a municipality our size. And we're on the low range.
And we also know how much we bill for, right?
We do, and the billing, the way that it's
Presumably, that's
broken
not more than
down,
what we distribute.
well, the billed gallons would be more what we would want to look at, used by residences and businesses, but what that comes into is the total average use. So the national use for an individual would be 250 gallons per day, all inclusive. That would include the restaurants in the town, the car washes. Actually, no, it's 250 per house, 100 per person. So you would look at that and break it down. And on an average day right now, we're producing about 550,000, which if it were the national average, we would be producing 630,000. So we're a little under that.
Okay, but in making that calculation, you're using national averages as opposed to the metered level that
That was both.
both.
The
Okay.
national average would be 100 gallons per person, which would translate into 630,000
Right.
gallons a day.
Okay.
What we're actually doing is under that.
Okay.
We're
Okay.
around,
You say actually, that's meter reading.
that's what's leaving the water plant. So what we're producing in water versus what the average use is what I'm talking about. What's actually billed in gallons, I would have to see, I don't even know if we can do that with our program. As far as the bill, we can do the billed amount, but I don't know if it does the math on the total gallons that are billed. And it can't, because on a minimum, somebody that pays a bill of $72 is paying for 10,000 gallons, but they may have only used 2,000.
Okay.
But they still have to pay that minimum bill.
All right, I feel like we're kind of going down some rabbit holes here. Can we can we keep going down the path where we're working towards mapping
Yes.
out our water
Yes.
lines?
I'll reprioritize it.
Okay, that'd be awesome. It's, don't get me wrong, it's scintillating stuff.
I
Thank you.
just happened to notice something too on this cash on hand report, that the capital funds aren't listed here.
That is to make it easier to understand. When they list the capital funds, we think of that as a separate block of money that exists in its own account that is unrelated to any of the other money. And that's not true. The money still exists, but it's part of that general pool that's in the bank.
But it needs to be set aside.
It is set aside, it's just not set aside on this
Okay.
report. What this report is telling us is the total money that's in the bank. It's not saying it's set aside for any particular line budget, item line in the budget. It's just saying this is what's in the bank.
Well,
But
we
we
used to
do-
have the capital set out separately.
We did.
That's kind of nice to see.
And the discussion that I had was that, I asked Anna why it wasn't on here, and she said that the decision was made not to put it on there.
I don't remember that.
These are-
No,
Would you
So-
guys like to see it back on?
yeah.
Yeah, I would too.
Okay.
I don't know of anybody here that made that decision.
Okay.
I think part of it was we were confused by the statement in our last meeting or two, and it looked like we didn't have enough money to pay the bills, when in fact, we had plenty of money to pay the bills, and it was, I think, seen as a step to streamline it for us so that we
You
weren't
have to
thinking.
look at the very top of the small number at the top of the.
All right, so if everyone wants that back, I think that's not going to be a
Or
problem.
just
I
separate
think breaking all of it down on the report would be confusing. So this is an attempt to simplify it, just by saying this is what's in the bank, and these are the bills that were paid, and this is what's in CDs. So, I mean, I don't have a preference on it. It's just, last month, it was confusing because it didn't look like there was enough money in the bank to cover
Right,
the bills.
right.
Because we were separating out the capital funds, but that is still cash in the bank.
Literally, in your checking account, that's what was really wrong with that report, sorry, I wasn't here again. But if you look at it, it was stuff where you're gonna keep capital funds in your checking account. So, we can put it back on, but it should be a notation at the bottom.
Right.
It's
That's
set
fine.
aside.
Right.
It shouldn't, cash on hand and in the banks, it's very inactive. Like today, we get in statements on through the account, which probably, it can change $30,000 or $40,000 by the reports that we get in today, so our meetings need to be later on in the month, right? Early reports, like we had a report come in this afternoon on the $500,000 CD, and it's gained, a few $1,000 as has the checking account, the fluctuations from bill payments, bills getting paid. So we're really giving you a thumbnail sketch, but if you want to know what we're reserving for capital funds, and we can be more aggressive because the health of the Utilities Commission is better than it was, say, 3 years ago. I think the rates are set at a good level, and with construction on the horizon like it is, putting aside those fees that are for permits would be a good place to put money if we can.
But if we
Certainly
had,
not in a checking account.
yeah, but if we had to vote on expenditures in the capital funds, we need to know how much is there.
Well, capital funds should be in our budget too. When they're that major as you're discussing, they should be outlined in our annual budget.
Because my understanding of it is that capital fund isn't Bob's discretionary fund. Anytime that money gets spent, I have to come to you for
Right.
approval.
We still have an unwritten comfort zone of keeping it somewhere around $1 million, but you'll see when bills go out and payments, you'll see early in the quarter that we're very healthy, almost like the Marion Council is once a year when taxes come in. 2 months, 3 months later, we send out bills again. If you watch these reports, and that's why I simplify them, so you can see last month's and this month's, and then next month you'll see the one before. So you'll know in a quarter what the Utilities Commission is doing, how they're doing financially. And we'll record the approximate capital base at the bottom of the page. But not out of half
All
of
right,
the
I think we got it now. Are there any other questions or comments? All right, is there a motion to adjourn the Utilities Commission?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're unanimously adjourned. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to commence with the mayor and council meeting. Time is 7:49 PM. The first item on the mayor and council agenda is to approve the minutes of the mayor and council meeting of February 20th, 2018.
I move that we accept the mayor and council meeting as submitted for February 20th, 2018.
Is there a second?
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Let the record show we unanimously approve the minutes. Operating funds on hand, item number 2, total operating cash on hand for unrestricted use for the town of Chestertown is $1,034,180.74. We also have grant reimbursement requests out for various marina initiatives totaling $244,046.71. Assuming that we get reimbursed for that, eventually that brings the total to $1,278,227.45. The third item on the mayor and council meeting agenda is the payment of the bills. Is there a motion to pay our bills?
I'll move to pay the bills as submitted.
I will second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Let the record show we unanimously agree to pay the bills. Item number 4 is the environmental committee, waste management. Are you going to speak, Dave?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Well, yeah, I have a statement from Margot, which I thought was going to serve, but I guess David's going to.
She asked me to read it. I think it's like 3 paragraphs long, if that's what's there.
Yeah, that's fine.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead. I've got the segment right here as well. Do you have a copy?
Okay.
I got a copy here for you. It'll be easier on your iPad.
Well, that would be nice.
Speaking of that, change again.
Thank you. To the mayor and council, first, this is from Margot Bailey. First, my apologies for not being able to speak to you in person. I've got some kind of flu. Several years ago, Chestertown took a courageous step in protecting our environment by banning single-use plastic bags. I think we were the first town in Maryland to do so. Since then, hundreds of towns in the U.S., Europe, and other countries are also banning these bags. We as citizens of the world are finally accepting the reality of the extreme damage that plastic pollution is doing to our environment. What I'm asking you to do tonight is not wild or daring, but is becoming the norm in most municipalities across the country. It is the more cost-effective and would give us
I just want to make a comment about that. I'm glad she saw the light. My first term on this council, I tried to get it to go to a one-week garbage collection. And the mayor, who at that time was Margot Bailey, was not one that said, no, we don't want to change anything. We need this to pick up the week. So I think it's interesting that she finally saw the light. I just thought it bring that up. There was one other person on the council with me that wanted to do that, but I couldn't convince the other 3, one of which was the mayor. That's all I had to say. I just wanted to clarify that. And I'm sorry the mayor wasn't here because I'd be glad to tell her in person. Go ahead, sir. I'll
Go ahead.
Heard your presentation.
Send it 15 minutes.
My name is David Silver. I'm a resident of Chestertown. Environmental Committee with the committee president. And 5 years ago, a report was done at the town's behalf, which a copy of which was provided to you. We will not be going into that report tonight, it will take too much time. But what you have is one page to the least number of words, some recommendations. So just to get into it, Chestertown, as you know, is slightly over 5,000 people, and annually about 1,670 tons of material are discarded. Of that 670, 1,200 tons are refuse, and then the balance are recyclables. 265 go to infinity, and there's an estimated, and it's a very rough number, tons of yard waste. Presently, the town enjoys 2 times a week waste collection, which was just being discussed, and once a week recycling collection. Of the 265 tons of recyclables collected by Infinity, that comes from 1,375 households, or about 70% of the households in the town. And that represents about 16% of the waste flow, those 265 tons of the total waste materials flow. Of the yard waste that are collected, that's about 12% of the waste flow, so those two make up about 28% recycling rate for the town. But that's only the materials that the town controls. There are vast quantities of recyclables that are collected and managed by the various stores, and that's done through private vendors and independently by those companies. We don't know what those exact numbers are, but it's probably at least another 10 or 15% recycle rate on top of the town's 28%. Now, in terms of the program cost, the town spends approximately $200,000 annually to dispose of 1,205 tons. And that works out to about $166 per ton of trash disposed. Now, the majority of that $166 goes to collection. It's more expensive to collect the refuse than it is to dispose of it. And I have it broken out in the outline, $102 per ton for collection and $64 for the actual disposal fee. That works out to slightly over $100 per household per year for waste collection. So if you could just maintain that number in your mind. If you turn to recycling, as opposed to $200,000, $63,000 is spent annually for 265 tons, much smaller number. So that the per ton cost of recycling is higher at $238 per ton. However, the per household cost is much, much lower than waste management. It's 46 versus the approximate $100 a ton of refuse disposal. Now, one of the secrets to getting that cost per ton of recyclables down is very simple, to increase the quantity of recyclables collected. Every time Infinity collects a household, the more recyclables it gets in. It doesn't raise its fee. It doesn't incur a higher fee for disposal. There is, some revenue. It's pretty marginal nowadays for recyclables, but that helps offset the operational cost of Infinity. So if we can just collect more recyclables, then that per ton cost goes down. The other way to do it, other than to draw more recyclables out of the current customers, is to take that 70% recycling rate closer to 100. You'll never reach 100, but that just doesn't occur. There's something that will refuse to do that. The state requires plans on how to manage solid waste. They're not imposed on the towns, only on the city of Baltimore and the various counties. So we've written a goal statement here, and we would like for the mayor and council to take this into consideration. You don't have to approve it tonight. But it reads to approve Chestertown solid waste program by diverting the maximum quantity of materials from the disposal stream into the recycling stream in a sustainable manner that is both economically practical and convenient for public participation. As was recommended in the original report and is even truer today, if the town goes to once a week refuse collection, the refuse collection and disposal cost should drop between 20 to 40%. That would yield somewhere between $40,000 to $80,000. And we suggest at least one thing be done if the mayor and council endorse the concept of once a week trash collection, and that is to apply some of those dollars to taking the recycling program from the present 70% collection rate closer to 100. And that has a dual benefit, because for every ton of recyclables you take out of the waste disposal stream, you don't have a disposal cost with infinity, but you do with trash, so you pick up that money. So not only the $40,000 to $80,000 in reduced collection costs, but you also, by virtue of diversion, it's presently I think $62 or $64 a ton is the current disposal rate. Every ton that comes out, you get that money for higher and better uses. We also recommend to you improved recycling containers. The Infinity has moved from the 5 recycling stream to 2 paper products and other containers, metals and glasses and certain plastics. But if Infinity could move to better recycling containers, and maybe some of those accrued funds could actually help do that, then once again we would divert more and more of the waste stream into the recycling stream, and we would propose a container that's on wheels that you could pull for the larger houses and for the smaller units in the town, such as apartments or small condominiums. They could still work with carry baskets. We would also suggest that if we understand that there's likely to be new waste collection systems, and there would be advantage to putting that into a wheel container for the standard loading process for the collection trucks. To get from here to there, the mayor and council would have to make a decision, and it's embodied in the law that you can go to once a week waste collection. You're not bound to twice a week waste collection. That would be the first act. The second would be to have promotion, public education, notices, articles in the news media, having schools endorse the idea. The best teacher of an adult, in my many years of experience, is their children. They not only teach, but they chide their seniors into conformance with good programs. The college can play an increased role in this area. We could issue awards to certain high producers. We could even develop a simple certification program, just as they have on energy efficient buildings. We could have efficient environmental waste management certifications that the town could award. The street containers could bear improvement through better coloring and labeling. So it's and where you have one waste container, you would have an adjacent recycling container of a different color, or if not a different color, at least prominent labeling, so it's obvious to the consumer what goes where. And you could also turn to enforcement in terms of, for example, if you move to a more active program as we're suggesting, whoever collects the refuse, if they see excessive quantities of recyclables, and the most obvious that appears is generally cardboard, they can refuse to collect the refuse. And the experience across the nation has been that when you do that, it only takes a few times for people to get in the groove. I mean, they may initially bear some resentment having to make that conformance, but it Chapter 85. The wording there is good, it will allow you to do all the things that we discussed, but there is the possibility for further wording. I think I'm looking for
That's pretty good.
questions. Oh, I'm sorry, there's one other thing. If you're not getting enough of the information in this moment, we would be more than pleased to have a special work session with you, because it would take probably a good 45 minutes to go into the details and give you some concepts, including language for your RFPs, if you choose to have RFPs, so on and so forth.
Well, I guess my comment is, I think for me, it always comes down to costs. I think part of your presentation is very timely because we just got notification that the company that's been collecting trash in town for a while, decades, is going to get out of that business, so we were going to be bidding that out anyway. I think this is probably a discussion that we need to have during our budgeting sessions in May, so that's not too far from now. So I could definitely see going to one trash pickup a week, although I don't think it's going to be super popular with a pretty good segment of the population. The challenge that I see with mandatory recycling is 70% to me, that actually seems pretty high.
70% of the households are collected.
Right.
The other 30% are not presently being collected by the community in an effort to try to conserve town's money.
Right.
So if we just address the other 30%.
Well, that's what I've been, how do you compel the 30% that are voluntarily not recycling to tell them to recycle? He's the guy?
Well, I think sort of contributed to the discussion. If it becomes the town's policy to advance recycling and want to as many jurisdictions then public education is part of it. You would want to announce the program, you may want to pilot it, for example, in one of the so there would be a learning process of, what works best and what phasing is most successful. But you also have, ultimately, if you're collecting the trash and you see recyclables in it, you have the ability to say, we can't, and you leave notes. We can't collect the trash because it has reusable materials
See,
in it.
that's where I think it sounds great when you're on the podium, but in reality, that's where I think it gets dicey, because now I'm asking my trash collector to also be a recycling inspector and an enforcement agent, and I feel like those are almost like three different jobs.
I think your recycling will come up merely because of the fact that you're collecting once a week, because those people that used to fill that can because they were going to take it out twice a week are going to fill that can up and wait a minute, that this left over, maybe that'd be better put in recycling.
Excellent point.
Yeah, that's,
Yes, once a week trash collection becomes an incentive to move materials over to the recycling.
I would concur with that, more than asking the next trash collection company to be an enforcement arm of local government, compelling people to recycle. I do agree with Marty and you that,
Well, that was my argument 10 years ago. But it didn't go
Is it still
Marty, we
valid?
all know that you were a pioneer here, okay? We all have acknowledged that. So, yeah, I think there's a lot to think about from a policy perspective, but it's also going to be a significant financial dollars and cents discussion, I think, on the ground for us.
Well, we hope you actually end up cleaning your pocket with what we're proposing.
I do
That
too.
you can save money. We're suggesting you reallocate some of the saved money to enhancing the recycling system. But we think you'll come out ahead.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the presentation. I will definitely take all this into consideration when we have our budget talks in a couple of months.
All right, we're available again for work in whatever fashion that you find.
Okay, great.
Thank you,
Thank
David.
you. All right. The next item on the agenda is Washington College and Kent County Diversity Dialogue Group Community Unity Day.
Good afternoon, good evening. So I'm not gonna take a lot of your time. I'm coming from faculty meeting too. And we had a good long faculty meeting, so I'm just gonna try to be as brief as I can.
Look at it.
Where,
So there are three
Discriminate.
photocopies, all with not. I have for everyone. I got it, okay.
Yes, I do. Thank you.
I was thinking of one for each, so I just want to give you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Here's what you have. See, I forgot one more. Oh, sorry. Talking about, being sustainable, I just was bringing you a lot of photocopies. My bad. And this is the last one. I promise. I will make it.
thank you.
So, thank you so much. I'm Professor Leanda. I'm coming from Washington College. I'm a Spanish professor in Washington College. And as you know, we are always trying to do community outreach, and more since Kurt is here, our new president. So when I pitched this idea to the previous president about having a community day in which both the town and the college kind of break bread and enjoy a little time together, it was an idea that was very well supported. It came also from the folks with the diversity dialogue meetings that just wanted to kind of establish a bridge between, the college and the community, the immediate community there, but also the larger community in Chestertown. So we kind of based a little bit the community day, the idea on the University of Delaware Community Day. That is a very successful event that takes place in the fall. You can see this description, and it really happens every year. It's well attended. I live in Newark, Delaware, and I never go to UD, but that day, because I know it's a community day. I know I'm invited to, I know it's open to me for my kids and so on. So we thought, not necessarily replicating this, to the scale of Chestertown, but we were thinking about doing Community Unity Day. And you can see the description here. And there are activities for kids because, it's really a magnet for families to come to show. There's going to be music, both from, local bands, but also from our students, food trucks, and also the community is involved, following the guidelines from the town. And then, of course, both informational booths from the college and the community. So we have already contacted the people who is going to be in charge with, stage, food trucks, booths, sanitation, 3 porta potties, 1 handicap. We have stage, microphone, speakers, the booths, and all the media releases. This is, of course, sponsored by Washington College. And then we have a lineup of people who are participating both from the college and the community. And as you can see, both in WAC booths and the Chestertown booths, everyone jumped in immediately. Garfield Theater was excited, the Kent County Arts Council, Humane Society, the Family Center, the Department of Social Services just reached out to us, the library. And from the college to, the City Star Center is gonna make a very nice project about local heroes. And they're gonna interview people and do local heroes. So we are, respectfully demanding your permission to close to close the street, because we were thinking for a while, we were thinking, let's do it in our lawn. But we do it in our lawn, neighbors are not gonna come. So we kind of need to meet in the middle. We need to reach out, and they also have to make the effort to come to us. So probably in the future, if this is really successful, if we see that we have a good response, then hopefully we're gonna move it to our lawn, and that's gonna facilitate logistics. But I think in this case, the symbol of being on the streets, that meeting up the streets is important for both the success of the event and for everyone involved. And so that's why we are giving you this little map of where we want to close. We want to close College Avenue, try to minimize as much as we can, traffic problems. At the beginning, we were thinking about going all the way through Calvert Street. Right now, we're just thinking at the corner of College Avenue, Calvert Street. We have enough space to really put the booths, to put the food trucks, to put the stage, and to bring people around. And this is kind of a little bit the layout of where the informational booths will be. We have permission from Jane Powell's and the Garnett School to use their playground in the parking lot. And Bethel Church has been supportive, and they also, all the neighbors around know. We have been asked their permission if they feel that this is uncomfortable and so on. And so far, they have been also excited.
I'm a little confused as to where the road closure stops, because I'm envisioning this road as coming and kind of curving like this.
It curves, indeed, it curves. So what we are, right now, I spoke also with Tri-State and the short distributors, and they have some construction going on there. So since it's a Saturday, they will not be using, they don't need, to that road open. However, since I don't want to disturb their exit, we were thinking starting just in our parking lot. So kind of closing from our parking lot and on.
Okay, so if I live on College Avenue right off 213, I could still get to and from my house.
You mean campus?
No.
I mean, well, it becomes campus, I
Campus.
guess.
Yes.
Do you go all the way to campus on College with your closure, right by Goldstein?
Yes, so we will close after the curve. So you can make a round,
Okay, so-
but you cannot enter our parking
All right,
or go
Okay.
to Calvert.
All right.
Yeah.
that's right at the intersection, right?
Yes, so it's gonna be that little part between our
Okay.
parking lot, the exit of our parking lot, all the way to the corner of Calvert Street. So the people who are living on Calvert Street have open access, and if you live in the little road that you have
Yeah.
there,
Prospect, one of the.
you have an exit also through Calvert Street.
Okay.
You have permit from the public school system?
Yes.
He's Garnet.
That's you guys, right?
You're gonna have that ethnic foods?
Well, I'm not part of it.
We're
I'm
gonna
kinda
have, yes, we're gonna have Mexican food,
I'm
we're gonna
hoping you're on board
have
with it.
Cajun food, barbecue food, and they have already the permits. They are making the permits.
Well, I think it sounds really cool. Looks like you have a lot of participants, and it looks like a really nice, diverse group of participants, so I'm on
Doing a
board.
lot of work.
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't get your name,
This
I'm
is,
sorry.
Elena de Anda. Elena, E-L-E-N-A, and it's D-E-A-N-D-A.
Deanda. Okay, thank you.
So Bill, in terms of permitting, what do we need to?
Well, all you have to do, since we'll make this into we'll format it our way, and we'll get that definition you want of where that intersecting street is. And all you have to do is say it's okay tonight, we'll do the rest of the legwork. Chief, have you had any, you heard this, I guess, that they're closing from Calvert to campus on that street of College? Is that-
Yeah, I don't have a copy of that map, but from what I've heard, it sounds like excavated.
It sounds like, yeah, there's a big concrete slab in front of maintenance that looks like a great area for a band, and probably the acoustics of the echoing off the building would be neat. So we'll do all the legwork.
So unless anyone else has any additional questions or concerns, does somebody want to make a motion to set this permit?
Just one question I have. Have you talked to Larry Henson? Okay.
Yeah.
Larry Henson lives right there, like right in the middle of all of this. So we don't want to totally disturb his peace and lifestyle on that street.
Are you still collecting community members to participate? Is it still open?
Yes, of course, yes. We have already an estimate of the groups, but you know, this is a community day, I think we can share. There's gonna be enough space for everyone.
I'd like to make a motion that we support the Unity Day, that they, as they have outlined, as a way to help bridge the gap between Washington College and the town, and in particular to bring some attention to a part of town that sometimes gets neglected.
I second that.
Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, we unanimously approve your permit
you.
request, and we'll, so Bill, the next step will be for you to formalize that. Say,
And I listed it.
Okay.
all right.
Hope you have a nice day.
Yeah, I hope our weather's good.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the next item on the agenda, my very first year in office, back in 2014, we went to a new website format and a new website provider. And so now that we have a couple new council members and that the site's been basically up and running essentially in the original format for the last 4 years with a few tweaks and additions. I asked Francois Sullivan of Moo Productions, who, if you didn't know, she is our web master, to basically just kind of come in and show us the site. And I did give you guys homework via email to look at the site.
I did my homework.
Man, you've written comments?
Those are my comments.
This is groundbreaking. But, so Francois, thank you for being so patient.
You may not want to hear them, that's the problem.
But if you could just kind of go over the bones of the site.
Sure.
Real-
Like Chris said, it's basically in its original format. I've adjusted some things based on input from the members here and from the community, and Jen, who I work with. Generally, content is added by the community, especially the calendar items. Those are fed to me by the submissions sent to Kent County, and I actually work with their webmaster, Jason, and I can access their calendar items whenever I need to and get a file that I download and then scrub it so that it fits my format and upload it back up to the site so that that content is always active and always coming from the community. The homepage, you can see, has a slider featuring events and featured articles. Usually that content is coming from Jen or Case or Chris, or somebody said, hey, we want to make sure that people know that Expedia just named us a great place. The farmer's market is happening. We want to make sure that that's up, and that also links to farmer's market information. Hey, no, later. Thank you.
So if I were to click on that First Fridays, does that take me to,
Yeah, it should take
Something.
you to the First Friday page. Though it may not. Some of them don't.
Okay.
Say. Like the Marina one, and if they do, it will tell you in blue.
That's the problem I'm having with it right now. It's just
Yeah.
what she's doing.
that's why we're here, Marty.
Yep.
Well, I have some other comments too.
Excellent.
All right, I'll have to see what's going on with that slider. That just took us back. Okay. Other things on the homepage we have over here on the column on the right-hand side. These are quick links to the recycling sign-up form. I think it actually takes you directly to the Infinity page. The police, this will take you, or actually this is public transportation, and this was one that we added just a few months ago, because I think that we were talking about that and how difficult it was to find the public transportation schedule in Kent County. And so I found it and thought I'd put that right on the front so other people could find that a little bit more easily. Police takes us to the police page, fire, and then this is an emergency link. This will take you to the Office of Emergency Services for Kent County, so you can click on that. There is underneath that a place where you can have other things that you want to highlight. In this instance, it was during the snowstorm, and we wanted to make sure that residents knew to park off the street if a storm was expected. And then Reconnect for Life, that was something that John Queen was here and wanted to ask the town to incorporate on the page to make it easier. And you link on that and it will actually take you to the form that he has set up for that. If you keep going down, so this has, I think it's 10, whatever the next 10 arts and entertainment events are, but you can also tab to annual events and it will show you what the upcoming annual events are. Government meetings, it shows you all of the upcoming town government meetings. And then there's also, we have 2 subscription emails, and one of them is for the arts and entertainment events. You subscribe to this and there is once a week, Thursday at 7 a.m., an email is auto-generated that goes out that shows the next 20 upcoming events. And it's all linked back to the website. Same with the agendas and meetings. When Jen adds an agenda or a meeting to the site, it triggers an auto-generated email to go out within 24 hours. So if you are on that list, you will always know when an agenda item is added or when the minutes have become available on the website. So we have a small group of subscribers right now. I say we have about 100 for each list. I try to do promotions on the Facebook page every so often, and also on those emails there's a way to forward them to people, and it includes a way to subscribe to those lists as well, so that's a nice feature. There's recent posts, so that would be, again, whatever Jen puts up goes up there. Each of the committees could have access to their own committee page. So each of the committees has their own page. And actually the only people taking advantage of that currently is the environmental committee. So they have access to just their page and the content on that page, and they can update it with whatever information they like. We also have, again, some information that we wanted to have readily available on the home page, the information about the marina, the comprehensive plan, zoning, and then a link to agendas and minutes. And we partnered with the DCA because they have a pretty active Instagram account. So we just have their Instagram account rotating. Excuse me. And then if we go back to the Arts and Entertainment tab, you can see that it links up and shows what's going on the Arts and Entertainment Facebook page. If we go to, I think what most people are going to is the events calendar. It's fighting me. Oh, it's trying. You'll notice the flags on the top. That was something that we incorporated when the site first came up, is a way to, it uses Google Translator and you can convert it into a number of different languages. So any text that is available on the website you can convert into Spanish or French or Italian or whatever you would like. Oh, it's very slow.
Is it trying?
It is, it's trying. It says it's connected.
I'm glad I'm not the only one that has problems.
Yeah. Well, here, while it's trying to do that, I'll just show you some of the, there's a lot of information on each of these tabs, and I think it was, there we go. Here's the calendar. So you can search for an event, you can view the event as a month, and you can see everything that's going on during the month, or you can view it as a list. You can even view it as the week or the day, just so you can see what's coming up.
And when people are perusing this, doesn't this site also keep track of how many viewers, where they're going on the site, how long they're spending?
Yeah, and I don't have the Google Analytics data with me, but I can send that to everyone so you can see where people are going. So this will show you the calendar as a list. If we go back to residents, as a resident, I tried to think of the information that I have reason to go to the website to find, and Jen had put together a great FAQ list of questions that also has good responses and links to information. So that's
These are going to be trash collection today.
yes.
That's the number one
I get the
question.
phone calls.
The arts and entertainment link now will actually take you to the Main Street Chestertown website that has an arts and entertainment section on it. So it takes you there, and all the content that was previously on here, including the district map, is there. Animal control, Chestertown Dog Park, Farmers Market, these all have, pull up the Farmers Market. These all have a description of the farmer's market and times and contact information.
Awesome. One breath.
Each of those. So we tried to compile things that were appropriate to Chestertown and having to do with Chestertown, but also to have forms that are universal. So if it's a Kent County, if you want the Public Works, you go to the Kent County Public Works and it'll just redirect you to that page. Same health department. I started to try and break things up into some categories by referencing businesses or tagging businesses that are considered family friendly or do youth development, etc. So those will show up on the family time page. Health and fitness, the same thing. So we have, which needs to be updated. Which takes us to all of the information that's showing up on here, like Aquafit. This is all from being pulled from a single business directory. And the business directory is here. And the business directory originally was exported and imported from the old website. And then you have the option to submit a new business. So each business that comes into town that wants to submit a business can. They fill in all their information, they can upload an image. I get an email to approve it or not, and so generally I don't approve things that come from the Philippines, that we do get those. And also, because the information was uploaded from somewhere else, I also included the option to claim your business. So if somebody says, hey, you know, my business is up here, but my website has changed or my address has changed, they can fill out a claim your business form and it will send me their information and I can update it from there.
So I think just in general that when we went this route, there were kind of we kind of basically broke it down into two big picture things. One was, hey, some residents, they want to go on there and just be like, when's the next mayor and council meeting?
Right.
When's trash pickup? They want to know like the nuts and bolts of amenities and meetings. And we felt like the old website was doing a good job of that, but maybe wasn't promoting the town enough. So that's one of the reasons why all these other things, all this content was added. So I guess the question for the council is, like, basically when I use this, I look at that toolbar because it's the most stable, static thing.
Right.
And I can kind of pick and choose what I want to, where I want to peruse. So I guess the question after 4 years to ask of these guys is, are we happy with how this looks? Is it functional in the way that you need it to be? Are there any changes that we'd like to see?
I do. I think the primary purpose of this webpage is to get people to come to Chestertown. It's way too busy, and it's only geared to people who already live here. What I would like to see is it come on full page with some really nice pictures, one of which, to start with, is coming across the Chester River Bridge, because how many small towns do you know have a view like that? Most of them look like our northern one. You've got fast food, gas stations, and maybe a shopping center. That's what the United States looks like. You can't tell one small town from another except Chestertown. But I would like to see some really nice pictures. If you want to put all this other stuff on there, put it on a bar down the side and people can click it if they want it. But I'm going to put it on the mayor, a voiceover with the mayor inviting you to Chestertown. And this is what we have to offer. Show the Washington College pictures, show some aerial pictures, show a picture of him holding up that rockfish, which I hope he caught in the Chester River, but may
You
not
say you
have.
did.
And then finish with him telling us a little bit of, telling the people a little bit about it. People will go to that from Wilmington, Philadelphia, Baltimore. That's what they want to see. Why do I want to make a trip all the way over there? I want to see these lovely old homes, and
What makes
the mayor could
Chestertown
do that.
special.
Yeah. In fact, he could probably sing a little bit.
Now you're pushing limits.
No, I do think it would be nice for you to do it. And I'm not talking about like you have it here with a little half a screen. I'm talking about the whole screen showing some nice pictures of Chestertown, and then you doing a voiceover. Especially make a note that you're entering Chestertown across that bridge. Whenever I go any place and I come back, that's when I feel good. When I get on that Chester River Bridge, you can look at me. And we want to make visitors. But this is all great for people who live in Chestertown, but what we're trying to attract is people outside of Chestertown that go to the Chester website.
So I'll tie on with Marty. I actually agree. I think if we can go up to that main bar there, just the top of the homepage, like basically that image of the marina under construction, it's very cool. It's neat that it's happening, but it's not like super attractive images. Like,
Sure.
you know, and that's conceptual. So I do agree. Like if we just had 10 rotating pictures, like I know you do with the Sultana's website, we have 6 pictures of our programs with smiling kids and the boat under sail and kids on kayaks. I think that should be the #1 thing under that main toolbar that catches your eye. And I do agree, like an aerial shot.
You could do I'm serious, you could do a voiceover and then end up with you telling, you know, what we have in town.
Well, however we do it. I mean, just
You did the voiceover for
that,
the tea
you know,
party.
what is unique about Chestertown is that it is uniquely pretty and charming. And I think that should be the very first thing that you see. And anybody that wants to know more could just go along that toolbar and see all the drop-down menus. Or there could be something, I don't know, an indicator like scroll down below these pictures, or maybe the pictures are thin enough that you see that there's
If I'm in
more.
Wilmington, I don't want to look at that.
No.
I want to look at why I want to go to Chestertown. I'm not interested in whether they had a meeting on the 15th for
I think that
containers or
it would, I mean, the purpose originally was not tourism, essentially. The purpose originally was to make sure content was, as you said, easily accessible to the residents here, and tourism would be a part of that. If we want to change the approach, we can totally do that. And it's like you said, it's actually relatively easy to do by incorporating these images and creating kind of a story with these images.
Well, as long as we have the
have the
menu
other
and we can
stuff
still
later.
get to those
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
But as I went to that menu, and personally I felt that one of the most colorful, one of the best sections in there was the Main Street section. But to get to Main Street, I first had to go to tourists or visitors, then I went to A&E, and if I'm coming from Washington, I don't know what A&E stands for. And then I got to Main Street, and then this beautiful picture jumps out at me, but it took me a long while to get there.
I agree. I mean, I think that Jen and I have kind of talked about this as well. This is actually less stuff on the menu bar than was originally available, which is also why there are so many different ways to get to things on the homepage. Which kind of begs, you talked about if you're from Philadelphia and you're looking for Main Street, you can't find it. But if you're from Chestertown and you're looking for the permit form for something, we need to make that as easily accessible.
Well, you
also.
We
can
need to do
judgment.
both, but the residents will be a little more patient and can go through it.
Has that been your experience, Jen?
I have to answer.
Yes, yeah, I understand that. So, I mean, maybe that's what we need to do. Maybe we come up with a story essentially for Chestertown, and we use images to tell that story. I could do that, and I can re-evaluate the, I agree. There's lots of
Don't leave
stuff.
off, I mean, that's a lovely picture of George at Washington College, and that should be included, but you also need some aerial photography and.
Yeah, I mean, just off the top of my head, I could take 6 to 10 pictures from my book and like, you
Send
just,
them to me.
you just make sure that they're
Yeah.
croppable on like a horizontal plane,
Yep.
and that's what you see when you get to the site. And then if you want to know more, you can spend hours with all those toolbars.
So what do we think about, I'm basically using this 2/3, 1/3 layout where we have this column. Do we want to keep all of the quick links and things accessible on the homepage? Are we thinking that we want to only use the homepage for tourism?
When you
I
say
bet you're
quick
gonna have-
links, are you talking about those icons
Yeah,
on
I'm
the
talking
right?
about the icons and basically that whole sort of right-hand
But
column.
Couldn't you just bump it all down?
There's a lot of clutter on there, quite frankly. I just
I
want to
agree.
see pretty images and somebody telling me if I was from Washington, why I should come to Chestertown. And that's mainly what that's for. Most of the people in Chestertown know those things anyway.
A lot of college websites has like a message from the president or whatever. And I think a bar like that across the top where introduction to Chestertown from the mayor, and click on that, you get this pictorial with his voice in it, and you can make any other choice you want, but there you go. Gosh, the mayor of that town's spoken to me. That's pretty interesting. I think
You should
Marty
have that
actually had a
come
good
on.
idea.
If somebody hits and wants to go to Chestertown and puts it in their computer, that's what comes up first. And if you're local and you want to do it, just skip it. Just punch the top of the thing, and if you've seen it a dozen times or so.
So just to give you guys a comparison, and I hope you guys can see this. This is Sultana's homepage, and Francois is the webmaster for this as well. So this is basically the whole homepage.
That's what I'm.
So you have this toolbar, which we already have on the town site, and you can see we basically have literally half a dozen pictures of like
Yep.
really cool things that we do. And then there's a secondary bar that can take you to all these other links.
Places, yeah.
So that your first image is just a clean look of what's cool about the organization,
Right.
or in our case, the town.
Well, when you're going on looking at other towns, and I have, especially college towns, when my grandchildren and so forth are going there, and that's what I like to see. Why would I want to go there? One's going to University of San Diego. I can't wait to go to University of San Diego, quite frankly, but I went on their website, and that's what they're doing. They promote the town.
So I guess that would be my biggest big picture suggestion, is if we could just clean up and simplify the homepage so that it's images, like Marty's saying, like classic images that evoke Chestertown, and maybe have a secondary toolbar, or just have all that just under the pictures, just as it is.
Do we want to lose all of this sort of bottom half of the page where it's a listing of the upcoming events?
It needs to be accessible, but it doesn't have to jump out of
But
the
you don't
screen.
see it until you click on it.
Yeah.
Could you have a secondary bar under the pictures that just says calendars? And then it goes to,
Yeah, I had yes. I had that at one point and was
overruled.
asked to do that. Yes, I can do all of these things.
Anything's possible.
It's all possible. I
Well,
just need to.
If you go all the way down to the bottom on the right,
Mhm.
now, I don't recognize where that came from, those, and I only recognize the cheese and the figs, and I want to know where I can get that chocolate cake.
And these
There's
are
no identification there. Where do you get that in
Linda just
Chestertown?
wants the cake.
She just wants to
From
get.
Fig.
This is the Instagram feed for
That-
Downtown
no, that
Chestertown
was
Association.
before.
We don't have. There is not a town tourism. I think that Kay is really starting to develop that, but as of right now, oh, it's right there.
Speak up.
You know, I just want to say, this is something I should be doing more on, but right now, we're in a very interesting thing with websites because we're working with Francois to do the Main Street website, so it is sort of an interesting puzzle, what goes there versus what goes on the town website versus what goes on A&E page. You know, it's complicated, and I think this is very good feedback. I do think it's busy. There's there's too much, and it's
Agreed.
fun to serve every master, and everybody in town calls Francoise and asks her to have
Yes,
one.
agreed.
So this is
But-
what happens, this is how it
Well,
goes.
and I mean, some of it is, somebody calls and says, I can't find the map of such and such, and I can't find it because I looked in the link, and I looked here, and I looked there, and I didn't find it, and so we try to simplify that, and I can't find, where, I know that my event is on the 9th, but it's not showing up on so we have all these masters that we're serving with that are businesses and
But why
our
can't-
organizations.
why
They
can't-
want-
I wanted to add one thing.
Why can't-
I wanted to add, though, that I think that Chestertown Live Facebook page is getting good traction. And
It
it has
is.
more generic pictures.
But the town's paying
that
the
people
bills.
are- And then that might be a better thing to link to,
The Chestertown
make sure we have a link to
Live.
DCA up there, but not necessarily
But
their
the-
Instagram.
yeah, I think that, I
We
mean,
should get top billing.
the Chestertown Life page doesn't currently have an Instagram feed.
Oh, I thought it did.
I think that Lydia was gonna set that up, but I don't know that it's set up
But
yet.
I think that's the
But
solution.
and this was something that kind of came up when we first started it, we need to control a lot of the content. If we are, the DCA Instagram account, we know that DCA members are the ones who are uploading to that, and I am connected to their account. I'm not connecting to like a hashtag or something, because anybody could put hashtag Chestertown on something, and you don't necessarily want their
Yeah, right.
content to show up on our page. So we need to
Well, and
control
I
the
think
content.
the last meeting we had that you could make it to, they are curating that now, so that, because I have the same problem, I don't want just any picture to pop up there. I want
Yes.
it to be beautiful pictures.
Yes.
So that we're solving, so, I get, what I'm saying is that I'll be happy to meet with Francoise
Yeah.
and try to figure it, because we're meeting with her about Main Street, and it's all the same ball of wax, we just have to.
But see,
figure out what-
we could leave that top toolbar that we currently have exactly as it is with all the same links.
Sure.
That's a ton of information for anybody that's
There's
interested.
tons of information.
And we
yes.
clean it up with 6 cool pictures of the town, and then maybe we have a secondary bar underneath it, and maybe one of those is Main Street Chestertown. You click that and it goes to your site. Maybe one is A&E events. You click that and it goes to that big list.
Okay.
But on the home page, it's just pictures and isn't this a pretty town?
Okay.
And I don't think we can redesign this as we're sitting here right now, because this could go on for hours, but can you guys give me authorization, because I kind of have a miniature vision based on like Sultana's website. If maybe you guys could go to Sultana's homepage, and we could kind of use that as a template for how to simplify our homepage. And we can basically keep the same information, but just try to clean up the entryway to it.
Yeah.
Could you guys give me the permission
Sure.
to
Absolutely.
follow with Francois?
Go for
on
it.
that?
Well, again, the primary reason for that is to get people to come to Chestertown, and that's what we want to do.
I agree, but we did have this discussion where we still want that,
and-
policy, beatnik to be able to find all the minutes that they need.
We
And
need to develop some kind of protocol with organizations as well. I mean, I know, I'm happy to have the Reconnect for Life on there, but if it's going to be useful and findable, it has to be on the homepage in
Right.
some way.
Yeah.
If, an organization says, I really want Chestertown to promote this, and you agree, then we need to figure out how we incorporate that so
Right.
it is worthwhile to them.
Yeah.
And not just, how do I even find that on the site?
And how long it stays there
Yeah.
before it's replaced. I think people see it a lot and they get bored. No, that's not your theory. Your theory is they're coming from somewhere else, and both have to be listened to.
I have one question. This may be to Kay as much as anybody, but when I would visit here and friends visit here from Washington, I often find that they're not visiting just to Chestertown. They're interested in what's going on in the region, in the area. And I'm curious as, do you have a policy to cross-list with Centerville or with Rock Hall if they have something going on? So that somebody can say, hey, there's great things going on in Chestertown.
Yeah.
But maybe, my kids might be interested in something in Rock Hall.
Well, one of the things it's very much a work in progress, but one of the categories on the Main Street website is going to be suggested itineraries. So one might be, outdoor person, one might be family, and we'll certainly be saying, visit Crow Vineyard, go to Charter Fishing Boat out of Rock Hall. So we want them to come here, and then from here, we want them to
Branch out, but-
branching out.
And I
know the
try
seals.
with,
The seals
I try with
are
the calendar to
the municipalities.
be sensitive to that as well. So if there is a nonprofit organization like Sultana that or River Arts or whoever that is, their home base is Chestertown, but they're having an event in Rock Hall, I still want to show that on the Chestertown page. I still want that to be on the Chestertown website, so.
Or at least a link to it so that they can see.
Yes.
Well, you had the municipality seals on there too. Thank you for putting Chestertown on there. But what I noticed on the calendar, and if you go to the calendar for First Friday and it says happy hour, for Happy History Hour, but it doesn't say where.
It is all,
And I noticed that, then it said something about pizza.
Yes.
And no address.
If the person who inputs the information on the county website doesn't say, it's so-and-so's happy hour, they just call the event happy hour, then that isn't how it's going to show up.
History happy hour. And
History happy hour, which is at the board.
I know, but it doesn't say that.
You have to click a couple of times to get that. That is a problem. Maybe we can figure out a message to send to.
And then if you went to First Friday, the one, well, that was the happy, and I don't think there was an address for the arts. The one with the birdhouse, the birds, and I don't think
River
there.
Arts.
Yeah, there wasn't an address for River Arts.
It is how the data is captured.
It's not really her fault.
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying, Linda, and I definitely empathize with Francois, because she's getting incomplete info from the organization.
And I understand
The info
that,
is
and
there, but
I run into that in other parts of, my work life. People assume that you know, and they don't put complete information or contact information.
Again, it's not your fault, but a classic
Well,
example of that is
Yeah.
the bus stops at Rose's.
Where's
Yes.
How many people know where Rose's
Well,
used to be?
Also turn where the church used to be, like that,
Yeah.
that kind of thing it's very local. But I can work with Jason and we can maybe come up with some more specific instructions for people, but it really is based on the content that is given. Yes, maybe a good idea is to give an example of, maybe a better way to write your event would be Sultana presents that this is happening. But worse, like you always include Liza's good about Sultana public paddles and that sort of thing. And River Arts is usually good. The venue is tricky because the way it is worded on the form, I believe on the county site, it says location. And generally, people tend to type in the address instead of saying it's at the Boardley Center at such and such High Street.
Either, though.
And then organizer is another thing that is confusing because is the organizer sometimes the organization, River Arts, or sometimes the person who's entering the data thinks of themselves as the organizer and puts their name and their contact information. So it is, yes, it's fixable, and we are requiring that people are trainable in order to fix it.
All right, well, I want to wind this down. I really appreciate you coming in, and I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel, but it would be nice to just streamline the homepage and minimize the buttons to as few as we can, and highlight the photos. So I think we'll just move ahead, and maybe I'll follow up directly with you, and we can look at some possible images and kind of take it from there, and maybe a month from now, you can come back and we can look at a new homepage or a date that's convenient. She has 2 young daughters, and I can relate, man.
And one of them really likes Chris.
oh yeah.
Again, all this detail is fine, but I think what we really need is the first 5 minutes, or maybe 3 minutes, maybe a minute and a half of just a nice clean image to bring people into town. And that's what they're looking for. The rest of that goes to most of the residents, and they can just click as soon as they go on. So.
Well, thank you very much for coming in, Francois.
You're welcome.
I really, really
Thank you for all
appreciate
your
it.
feedback.
All right. Okay, let's move on. We're on item 7. This is like the longest meeting that I think any of you have had as new people. Is that right?
I believe it is. I mean,
Yes.
The
Okay.
longest mayor and council meeting.
Longest man council.
All right, let's go to Bill Ingersoll, town manager.
Okay.
We're good.
I'll try not to set any new records. We have a request for an event that I think was a big success last year, Cars on High. They've sent a permit in for essentially the whole year, from March until October. They want to help in us placing no parking signs around the Fountain Park, closing High Street to traffic from 5:30 to 8:15 p.m. and allow up to 3 food trucks. I think that's it. That's probably like what it is now, maybe. So it would be you voting on a continuation for this whole season this year, starting in March, of that Thursday night event, starting in March.
Is that a rain or shine event?
No, it's weather permitting.
All right, so do we need a motion, Bill, to?
I think so, yeah.
I make a motion to approve the permit for Cars on High from March through October, 5:30 to 8 p.m. on Thursday evenings.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Say it that,
Let the record show we unanimously approve the permit for Cars on High.
put the third Thursday on that.
Third Thursday.
Third Thursdays?
No, we'll put it in the motion. It's the same all the time. And this is an application that we got today. I had talked to this group. It sort of changed a little bit in what it was going to be. It's from Social Action, Paul Toohey, Sherry Tillman, and I think Rosie Granillo. It's an event that they want to have on March 24th, Saturday, and they want to close streets to have a march for safe schools, 12 p.m., march from Dixon parking lot to Wilmer Park at 1:30, have a short rally in the Wilmer Park, end by 3 p.m. The only thing that I asked them to do is to go talk to Chief about the idea of a parade or a march down the street, what that entailed with, safety, police, and I don't know how much time they spent with Chief. Chief?
Yeah, we need to have that conversation further. I just received a brief email. My suggestion was to consider going down the sidewalk, and then we could avoid the whole road closure thing. Because basically we would treat it like a parade. If they're coming down the street, then it's a lot of manpower and resources to do that. So I'm not averse to the idea, but it might be a simpler way to do it.
Also, when they were here, I talked to them about time. The downtown is really packed with people up until noon and maybe till 1. And even though the farmer's market stops at 12, it takes a while for them to move out. And I think there's a perfect time for a march or a parade down the street that keeps the people in town, but also isn't a dangerous thing. So your idea about it being on the sidewalks alleviates any of my concerns. But if it's straight down the middle of the street, that's a pretty busy time of day, noon on Saturday morning. We put these pedestrian signs out, on Cross Street, and people still go through them. So safety is important, and the idea of safe schools is, I think everybody can relate to. Wasn't really exactly what they said, but if this is what they wanted to be, I think that's a good cause.
Bill, did they give you an estimate of the number of people to be involved?
They have no idea. No, and the only reason I'm jamming it in here tonight is that we have this rule about giving a max notice to the council about street closure. So I'm just getting it in. I think we can still talk about it at the next meeting, but I know they want a plan. So I'd say if I was the council, I'd ask the chief to sit down with them and find out how solid they are about walking down High Street, at noon on Saturday. And if that's really the focus of the whole thing, then have to get some help with.
What is the theme?
March for Safe Schools.
It's probably in conjunction with the different teen marches that are going on around the country, something like that.
That's what they said. That's what they said. And they want to participate in this national kind of event. So, If you want to give us a little flexibility, you can approve the event based on the chief's recommendation.
When is the big one in Washington? Is it that same day?
I hope so. I think March 24th.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I totally support the event. I think the street closure might be a bridge too far. I mean, they might only have 20 people. We have no idea, like, you know, for something like that where they might have 10 people, they might have 210 people. I think it's kind of a gamble and a potentially a huge inconvenience for a small return if it's raining or whatever. So I like your idea of, I mean, they can march down the sidewalk and we can cordon off Wilmer Park. I don't think that's a problem at all, but the street closure, I think, is...
Are there speeches involved or anything?
Well, they say that, yeah, a short rally in Wilmer Park from 1:30 to 3. So, Jen, did we check is the park available that day?
Park is available.
So no Easter egg hunts or anything? So.
That's the next weekend.
I like the idea, but I think it needs to be fleshed out a little bit more as to what they plan.
I mean, maybe they could gather at Fountain Park at 1 and just march along the sidewalk to Wilmer Park. That's where they would get the most visibility.
Right.
And it would be the least amount of, you know, work and overtime for our police force, and may not necessitate a road closure because they could just use the big wide brick sidewalk all the way out to the park.
So if you just give the flexibility, I'm just trying to get in here before, you know, if it's a street closure or not, and we'll keep the council apprised that if they can give us estimates of the participation, that would really be great at this point. I doubt that they can. It may be a spontaneous thing, it could be raining, it could be a beautiful day.
Yeah.
And
So-
if I may, another suggestion was if they wanted to start at Dixon, they could go down the trail to Wilmer Park.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that's
Yeah,
all.
They want to be visible.
It is a beaten path, but I'd say it's off the beaten path.
So can we maybe
Yep.
make a motion for like provisional approval pending
Yeah, in-house.
in-house examination
Yep.
of road closures potential?
Yep. We want to make sure.
But I can't make the motion.
Well, so
What you
moved based
said.
on what he said. I'll make the motion
Yeah.
based on what Mayor just outlined.
It's the best way to do it.
Is there a second?
I second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yeah, and
That's it?
I just want to say one word about Wallace Henry. It was a shock to me that he died last week, and I know he's worked with me for 30 years, and he's done a tremendous job. And and his sons want to carry on, and they're not necessarily going to stop July 1st. They want to be involved. They may want to be involved in the bidding process. We'll work with them and the family. But it was a big shock, and I talked to his brother, and he was heading to the cardiologist the next day for a checkup, and his brother had just taken him to the eye doctor. It's totally unexpected, but anybody who knew him knew he always had a wave, always had a cigar in his mouth, and
Yeah, when you said 30, I would have almost said 40.
it's probably 40.
Yeah.
It's probably 40, and
I don't remember anybody else picking my garbage up except him, so.
right, and we know one thing, that Wallace didn't like the middle of the night, because this has been a source of confusion for almost 40 years. The trash was supposed to be picked up 4 or 5 a.m., but he just didn't really like that time of day, so he morphed it all the way around, so our Monday pickup is Sunday night, Sunday afternoon, or whatever, but it was great. Everybody adjusted, and he never failed to go back. If something got missed, we'd call him up and go, okay, and go back. So that's all I have.
Okay. Mayor's report, I'll try to be brief. And the first item on my report is to nominate or hopefully appoint Owen Bailey to the Historic District Commission. We brought this up at our last meeting. Owen had submitted his resume and a cover letter. I think he's more than qualified, and we're actually lucky that he's interested. So I would like to approve his appointment to the Historic District Commission this evening.
Do we need a motion?
I think we do.
I'll move to approve Owen Bailey.
I second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
I do have one question related to that. I fully support Owen for that position, but I'm curious, how do we advertise to the community currently when these positions are available?
I've never advertised this.
It's on the, isn't it on the website when they're...
We've had it on the
when their
website.
Time is up?
Historically, before we had a website, we would add that we have positions available for commissions and committees.
I'd like to, this isn't a motion, but I would like to recommend that we do advertise, let the community know. Years ago, I heard after the fact that there was an opening on the Planning Commission. I would have liked to have applied for that, but I applied too late because it was already filled. And I think there may be other people feel, and if we really want the community to be involved, we should let them know.
This way, we just have a list, let people know if they are interested in different categories to come in here and get on the list.
Yeah.
And
It
then,
would be nice
it's
to
not
meet
gonna be
these
that,
people.
you know, leave a phone
We're not going to be
number, your
overrun, I
name,
recognize
and
that.
somebody, if it comes, a vacancy comes up in the Historic Commission and your name's on that list, we'll call and say, are you still interested? If you are, give us a resume and tell us why you want to be there.
But just some way to get the word out that
Yep.
we're looking for good people.
You can't go around and take them by hand. They're just going to have to do a little bit on their own. So.
All right. That's a point well taken, David. The second item on my agenda is kind of exciting. We are in the running to receive a bond bill for Chestertown Marina. Specifically, if you haven't been down there lately, you should go check it out. We're building a new center, a new marina. It's called the Chestertown Marina Interpretive Center, which will basically function as a waterfront visitor center, a marina store. In the middle, there'll be facilities, bathrooms and showers for transient boaters, and a couple bathrooms in the front that may be available to the public. And then the left-hand side, left-hand third will be a retail space that we hope will be some sort of marine-related business. The bill has been introduced by Senator Addie Eckert, who represents the Lower Shore. Basically, one of these has to be introduced by a local representative on your behalf. Things have been happening really quickly with this, and there's actually a hearing in front of the Senate Budget and Taxation Committee. The way these work is these bills are proposed by various members of the state Senate initially. They go to a hearing, assuming it makes it through the hearing. It then goes to the House for a similar hearing, and if it makes it through both houses, then the funding is essentially approved pending like approval by the Board of Public Works, which is usually pretty perfunctory. So unfortunately, I cannot make the hearing on Saturday. I only found out that it was this Saturday last week, and I have a teacher conference that's been on my agenda for months. So luckily, I asked Case if he could go. The reason I asked him is because if they start grilling, you know, sometimes you go to these hearings and you give your testimony and nobody's even listening to you, and they just want to get through the agenda. And then sometimes they grill you on the numbers, and they want to know how much funding you got from the state and the feds and private donations. And I think Case would be very well positioned to answer that because he's been intricately involved in the fundraising for this particular project from the beginning. So I am going to read you the testimony that I've drafted. I just drafted this today. I'll be tweaking it, but it's got to be short and sweet. You have basically 2 to 3 minutes to make your case after the legislator introduces your bond bill. So this is what I have so far. Honorable members of the Senate Budget and Taxation Committee, thank you for the opportunity to testify before you this afternoon on behalf of SB 1177, a bond bill for the town of Chestertown in the amount of $500,000 to support an ongoing effort to repair and revitalize Chestertown Marina. I'm here to provide you with a brief history of the project for which we are soliciting this funding and to emphasize the initiative's importance to our local economy. In 2012, the town of Chestertown purchased the last working marina on the community's waterfront for $2,050,000 utilizing a Maryland infrastructure bond from the Department of Housing and Community Development. At the time of purchase, the facility had suffered from years of deferred maintenance in the private sector and was in urgent need of comprehensive repairs. For the past 6 years, the town has worked tirelessly to revitalize Chestertown Marina in order to promote economic development, stimulate heritage and ecotourism to the region, enhance public access to the Chester River, and preserve an important component of the town's history, culture, and identity. In the past 12 months, significant progress has been made towards completion of this ambitious undertaking. New bulkheads have been installed, construction of a new boat ramp is complete, old piers have been removed, dredging of the entire site was completed in February, and installation of 2 new floating docks and 1 new fixed pier is scheduled for this spring. Additionally, construction of a new marina headquarters is underway. This facility, known as the Chestertown Marina Interpretive Center, will serve as a waterfront visitor center and marina store. It will also provide bathrooms and showers for transient boaters, contain a retail space for marine-related activities, and be available for public rentals for community events. If awarded, Bond Bill SB 1177 will be allocated towards completion of this important structure. The revitalization of Chestertown Marina will have a tremendous economic impact on the local economy. It is estimated that the new facility will generate $1.7 to $2.2 million in direct spending annually, representing an increase of almost 8% to Chestertown's $25 million a year tourism economy. The project will support 30 to 45 new jobs in Chestertown and Kent County and generate approximately $150,000 each year in new state and local tax receipts. Additionally, the new amenities at the marina will significantly enhance the community's largest annual tourism events, including the Chestertown Tea Party Festival and Sultana's Downrigging Weekend, which bring tens of thousands of visitors to Kent County and generate hundreds of thousands of dollars in spending at local shops, inns, hotels, and restaurants. In summation, this is a project in which the state of Maryland will see a significant return on its investment. Furthermore, it is important to note that this project is part of a broader vision to revitalize nearly half a mile of Chestertown's waterfront. The town has been working closely on this initiative with Washington College, which is currently constructing a new $4 million boathouse and has plans to invest over $20 million to create a new environmental education campus just a few hundred yards downstream. When the marina and the college facilities are complete, Chestertown's renovated waterfront will become a major economic engine for Kent County and the Upper Eastern Shore for generations to come. The effort to revive Chestertown Marina has received broad-based bipartisan support from the community. The town has received over 400 letters of support for the project from politicians, business leaders, boaters, residents, and visitors alike. Several of those letters have been submitted with this written testimony, and more can be provided upon request. Thank you again for this opportunity. While we understand that the state has many funding priorities, we urge you to give SB 1177 your favorable consideration. Sincerely, Chris Serino, Mayor. So that's what we're going to submit. We'll see how it goes. I will keep you abreast if this progresses beyond this stage to the House. If we were to get this funding in that amount, it will get us very close to being able to just about, and I don't even want to say this, but if we finish that building this year and get those docks installed this year, that will be a huge, huge chunk of this project that will be knocked out soon. There's like a dim light at the end of the tunnel if this funding happens. So I know you guys are kind of new to this, but for me, this has been like a 4.5 year ordeal. And fingers crossed, knock on wood. I don't think this is the type of thing where we need to bring a giant contingency. Again, it's one of those things where half the people might not even be listening to this testimony, but we have to.
They like, if you submit that letter, they like written testimony, even though you're saying.
They do, and sometimes they'll say, did you submit written testimony? And if you say yes, they'll be like, we have it on our desk. Thank you very much. And if they just do that, that's actually good. If they start grilling you about the numbers, you got to be ready,
Right.
and that's not necessarily the best.
I always felt they wanted that so they wouldn't have to listen to me. So
So that's where we are, and I'll keep you appraised as this progresses. The good news is this is a pretty quick process, and the budget, I think, is done by like April, early May, and then the money doesn't come to us till September, but you can start billing as early as, I think, June 1st. So ideally, that would allow us to keep all these construction crews that are on that building right now on site so they could just bang this thing out. And it's been interesting. Like, I've been trying to preaching this vision of the waterfront for years, but now that there's actually things going up, I get more comments every day than I ever have, because for some people, they just need to see things coming out of the ground to kind of get it. And I think some people are getting it, and hopefully our state legislature will also get it. and we keep moving forward. So it's exciting. It's also nerve-wracking and stressful, but it's all good.
Yes.
Okay, ward reports. Why don't we start with you tonight, Marty Stetson?
All right, I'm very short of it, but I did attend on February 27th, the Chestertown Rotary Club councils had a special meeting where they honored Save the Hospital group. And I was representing the town at that meeting, and it was a full house in the Fifth Whistle, in the big room. A lot of people showed up, and at this time in our history, I don't know of any group that you could select that had more of an impact, an actual impact, and got something done that needs to be honored. They couldn't find any group that needed to be honored more than that. They give them the award. It was named after Dr. Paul Tinsworth, who was Washington College president and the first president of the Chestertown Rotary Club. I think it's a little over 100 years ago. The keynote speech was given by Deborah Metzauer, and she gave us an idea of where they are now with the legislature and so forth. So it was an interesting meeting, and I was glad I was there to represent the town, to let them know how much we appreciate what they did for us. And I think the mayor was the original, one of the mayor, weren't you an original member of that group? The president of the college?
You attended a lot of the early meetings.
I did.
Early meeting.
All right, and that's all. And other thing, I bring it up every week, the streets are crumbling, but otherwise we're in front of it for.
Things are well in third, kind of quiet because I've been down with the flu, but I'm looking forward to this April 14th event and bringing some attention to that part of town.
Yep.
So that's where we are.
Linda?
Well, Washington College convocation was pretty eventful for Chestertown again, where Mr. Morris, a direct descendant of Booker T. Washington and Frederick Douglass, came to Sumner Hall for a breakfast at 9 o'clock on Saturday morning and was honored at the Washington College convocation. I said, for a small town, Sumner Hall, for a small little building, one of two left in the country, attracts some very prestigious people, to Chestertown. When I forget his name, Dr. Lonnie Bunch was here for the way we worked with the Smithsonian, and now a direct descendant from Mr. Washington and Mr. Douglass. So that was very nice, and it was the biggest convocation I've been to. I've gone to them for many, many years, and it was a packed house at the college. And then Sabine Harvey received the President's Award for her volunteer work in Chestertown. So that was very nice also. I'm probably going to bring up something controversial here, but I would like churches to be permitted to be in the nonprofit section of the farmers market. I would like churches to get a permit if they want to set up a table in the nonprofit section of the farmers market.
You had requests?
Yes.
How many?
One so far that was denied.
Do we have a policy currently that's opposed to that? I'm not aware of the policy.
No.
Do you,
Okay, I heard a yes and a no.
well,
Simultaneously.
I don't,
you know,
is there anything written?
there's plenty, no. Could I go to the ordinances and find anything that says there's separation of church and state? No. So, but that's not, your church is not the first church that's been turned down to distribute religious materials at the farmer's market, okay? So if you want to formulate a policy on it, be my guest, but I think you ought to do it in 2 meetings. I don't think it should come up in a war report and be passed that night. So if you,
Oh, I'm just bringing this up because the farmer's market is going to, or the artisans are going to be coming back shortly, and the farmer's market will be in full swing. And I also would like to remind folks that the government gives churches their nonprofit status. Not this government, but government in general gives churches the nonprofit status. So I
We
don't.
well know that, they have half the town that.
Well-
if a church has a bake, if a church has a sale, there's been plenty of that. But for a church to go just sit there every week and distribute religious materials, that I would think that we'd have a lot of churches that would want to do that simultaneously. So I don't want to be the
I don't
person that says
see
yes
it.
or no to this. I think that the council needs a lot more material about their farmers market. This came to a head a few years ago. There's a lot of gnashing of teeth about what could be in the farmers market, what could they sell there. It's very minimal, our list. And,
Why would they have to sell something when our nonprofits don't sell anything?
I don't see it.
No, the non-profit, how'd that come up?
I'm
Well,
what
asking
do you
for the
mean?
nonprofit section. I'm not asking for them to come and sell anything.
There is somebody that, right near the flagpole, they're there every week.
I'm looking at it from a point of view of a church not necessarily sending out or passing out religious information, but more information about the work that they do in that particular parish or church community. And I think any church or leader of a church would understand that the dissemination of religious material would be not necessarily kosher to do. But you know, if it's for instance, if it's my church and I want to come out and I want to pass out a flyer talking about the things that's going on in my church, I think that should be allowed to happen, and not necessarily be a violation of church and state, because it's not an effort of us of a church trying to influence government in any
Right.
particular way.
So I think this is, if we want to have this discussion, I really think it needs to be on the agenda.
Right.
I agree.
I have it, I get worried about that. What if we have, I see that as a
Well,
real
I know where you're
slippery
going with
slope.
that, Chris.
I just see it as a slippery slope where we're making judgment calls on different religious groups.
Right.
No, you're
Where-
not doing, Kent County, this is what I've heard, Kent County has more nonprofits per capita probably than any other county. We don't discriminate against any other nonprofit wanting to come to set up in the farmer's market. And it may not be, you may not have every church that wants to come, you may not have, every nonprofit that wants to come, but I'm seeing more and more permits for the nonprofit sections.
Well, and that's true because of farmers market popularity. There never was, on Saturdays, there never was really nonprofits in the park. They're there because there's foot traffic to
And they're
the
not
farmers
selling
market.
anything.
Well, I think it's one thing if a church is like, if Jane's Church wants to sell, fried fish or.
Why do they have to
or-
sell some then? And
Because it's a religious, it's a private,
you don't have to
thing
eat
where-
every time you think of a church.
What do they do, what do they do there? Proselytize?
No, that's what
No,
we're not
just-
trying to do. I think she's saying she's
Yeah.
not
You
trying
could just
to do that.
pass out, well, you don't have to pass out anything, you just have a table with literature on your table, like
what
everybody else.
kind of literature? I mean, are we gonna need to go and read, like, make sure they're not handing out pamphlets about their particular beliefs? And my feeling is it's a slippery slope and we should keep a separation of church and state pretty clear. That's my personal view. I mean, again, if they want to come sell cakes or whatever as a fundraiser, I think that's totally different. And then we do that at Tea Party Festival and it's a big moneymaker for
And
us.
that's not, you're mixing, you're just mixing things up there. Why should a nonprofit have to come to the farmer's market to sell something?
I think if you're providing like a social service, that's different from you're a religious organization that have certain beliefs and you're in a public arena that's sponsored by the local government, then I think you're getting into a weird situation where it looks like we're allowing certain religions to come set up shop and not others. I don't
understand why you wouldn't allow all religions.
I mean, you'd have to, and I think that's
Right.
kind of where I'm going with this, is like, is that really what we want the farmer's market to be? Like a place where religious groups are coming to like
You've got the-
promote their religion?
You've got the
It's a place where you go buy
political groups
vegetables and
coming.
fruits and carved ducks and, kittens. It's not like, I just think it's a separate category that I think should be kept separate. That's my opinion. But again, like if we really want to discuss this, like I don't know if like 9:30 is the greatest time to bring it up. We
No,
should have it
but
as an agenda.
I think it requires some thought. There's unwritten policy, and it really wasn't written. The farmer's market evolved from 1983 to now. It actually evolved. It's so different than it was in the beginning. This is something that you need to think about and vote, and maybe a pilot program, because the problem I had with it is I could never say, oh, there's too many churches here this week, and nobody else can get here, and you've been here for 9. I usually let, and even nonprofits, 1 or 2 times. I don't give, Sabine Harvey is, I guess it's a teaching thing that she does. She gets a summer pass there, but anyone else, it's like 30 days. And it's hard. You don't know how hard it is day to day to do this, and I'm not bringing all of them to the council because you don't want to do this really.
Bill, do the people who distribute literature at Monument Row, do they?
They are not permitted
They are
to be
across
there.
the road by
They
the
do it
flagpole.
on their own. And so if there was a way that made it easy to say, okay, it's your turn here, or Sundays. I mean, I know there's a lot of people there Saturdays, but I guess Sunday afternoons would be a bad day to have. I think you need to think about it and try a pilot program like you did with anything else to see how does this work.
I agree with Chris in that church and state should be separated, and basically that farmer's market is part of our town, which is town government. And so you're mixing it together.
The diversity
If you
group
say
is
no to
there, and
everybody,
they
it's a
don't
lot
sell
easier.
anything,
What if
and
the
you
Ku
just
Klux
sit with
Klan wanted to come in and
literature.
burn a cross? What do we do then?
It's not a religious place.
I know that, that's what I
I'm
mean,
saying.
but
Like they could claim to
all
be
the
religious.
No, I'm serious.
nonprofits
Well,
are,
they're permitted there for the whole summer.
nobody's selling anything in the nonprofit section.
You do. I mean, when you have tickets for a quilt or...
Who created the nonprofit system?
We did because of the demand. We organized the nonprofit area because the demand was so great to be in the park on Saturday mornings. And so we, actually, it's like, okay, well, you can do this for 3 weeks or we have an event and that's what we're doing. We're selling tickets for a quilt, and that's how it evolved. If you look at the grass there, you'll see there's a lot of people there. You can just tell there's been things going on. So I'd be more than happy to have some guidance on this. I think it should be voted on after you give it some thought. You tell me what you want me to do.
All right, anything else, Lynn?
No.
David?
All is fine in the first.
Amen. Fine in the
That's my
first.
kind of report right there. There were no requests from the public to be on the agenda. Questions or comments? Before we get to questions or comments, I meant to make one more comment. Before this bond bill hearing on Saturday, I need to get a letter of support from the county commissioners. So I'm actually on their agenda to go talk to them tomorrow night to give them an update on the project, tell them about this bond bill, and then ask for a letter for them to sign that I've already drafted, and I'd be happy to send you guys a copy of that letter if you're interested. All right, are there any questions or comments from the audience this evening? All right, if not, is there a motion to adjourn?
I moved to.
Yes, sir, I second that one.
All those in favor? Any opposed?
Okay.
We're outta here.
Chris, you want my thoughts on the webpage?
It's not my ward, so.
Yeah, yeah.
Oliver. And
What can I say? I
called
thoroughly enjoyed
the
that.
county